Okay, once and for all, actually. But whether or not the voting age in the UK should be lowered to 16 at all UK elections. Right, funny enough. Right, so my name's Alex, as Sean said, and basically, we are going to be doing a show on Vote 16, which will have two speakers here. They are called Dr. Beech from the University of Hull.
Hey!
And we have Rajay Naik here, who's also trustee of the British Youth Council, who's arguing for, and Matt is arguing against.
Good morning, how are we? Well, I'm tremendously glad to be here this morning, and Matt was just telling me about what a great group you are, and he's been speaking to a few of you, and it's great to hear all your voices coming together this morning, and you all putting your views across and demonstrating that young people want to be listened to, have some very important views, and want their views to be heard, that they want to take part in their democratic process, that they're passionate about politics, that they're passionate about the cities and the communities and the countries around them, that they're passionate about issues that are relevant to their lives, and they're passionate about other people. Over the next hour, we're going to show that young people are passionate, they're not apathetic, but they are bothered about politics. They are bothered about their communities. They are bothered about the lives of themselves and other people, and they want to change them, and they want to have their democratic right. And just as the Black Civil Rights Movement changed the voting suffrage, just as the suffragettes changed women's suffrage, we are going to be the generation that changes youth voting and makes sure that equal rights exist for young people in society, and that 16-year-olds get the democratic right that they are entitled to and get the voting age at 16. A mountain coalition that has basically promoted the view that young people at 16 should be entitled to the vote. And that's not just something that we've come up with, that's not something that we've just plucked out of the air, that's not something that we've said, oh, I'm 16 and I wish that I could have the vote now rather than having to wait 2 years. That's not about some sort of teenage hormonal system that has sort of said, I want the voting age because I can do all these other things. It's actually down to common sense. And I'm about to outline that common sense to you. At 16, you can leave full-time education. At 16, you can enter full-time employment. At 16, you can have sex. And as the team last night said, you can have sex in the dorm, but that's not that. At 16, you can play the lottery. At 16, you can pay taxes into the exchequer. At 16, you can play the national lottery. And at 16, you can join the military, get married, and leave home with your parents' permission. I've messed around with the slideshow, but actually it's a fact that young people will not mess around with their vote, and they'll actually use it wisely, they'll use it democratically, and they'll use it according to their principles and their values. And it's very important that we make clear that just as young people can do all of those things, it's their right, therefore, that they should be entitled to the vote. If they're paying taxes, if they can join the army, if they can get married with their parents' consent, if they can leave full-time education, and if they can enter full-time employment, they should have the right to have their say in the democratic process, and they should have the right to choose their democratically elected representatives in government and in parliament. We're going to make very clear that young people are passionate, they are bothered, and they do want to make a difference, and it's about time they had their democratic right and that we gained votes to 16. Thank you very much.
I feel like the pantomime villain, and look, it's great to be here today. I kind of feel like, I'm a member of the National Meat Eating Association, rocking up to a vegetarian conference and trying to persuade you guys to eat beef. But all I want you to do is just listen to me for a few seconds, and if I change one mind, then I think it's been worthwhile. I think Rajay was very eloquently put a very strong case together. I just want to pick up on one or two things. First of all, this is not about discrimination. This is not about Black Americans being disenfranchised in the 60s with Martin Luther King and trying to say, look, we're equal, we're morally equal, and we're politically equal. This is not about Emily Pankhurst. And it's not about women's suffrage. It's not about saying, we're women, we're human, we're morally equal, why can't we have a vote? Shall I tell you why it's not about that? Because it's not about discrimination. And the reason why it's not about discrimination is because every single person who's 16 will become 18. This is not about saying, you know, it's race, it's religion, it's gender, it's sexuality. Do you know why? Because all of you who are 16 in this room, who's 16, put your hand up please. I bet you guys, all the money in my pockets, all the money was about £8.50 after my turkey sandwich, you guys are all going to become 18. You're all going to become full citizens. And that's why it's not about discrimination. So that's my first point. Okay, I want to move on to a few other things. Just to clarify, it's about consistency. Rajay picked up a few points. He said, look, you're allowed to do this before you're 18. Why can't you do that? That's a valid point. You should consider that. That's a valid point. But it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not nearly enough of a reason to say that we're going to change our political settlement and give the most important right, the right for adult citizens to express their opinion in who's going to form the next government. That's not nearly enough of a reason to say, oh, you can do other things at 16. All right, why not 14? How many of you are 14? Hands up. I bet you that you people who are 14 are not that less informed than your friends who are 16, so why not 14? Why not 12? Goodness me. So it's not a good enough reason just to lower it. You've got to make a stronger argument than that. And I'll say why. I'll tell you why this. First of all, at 18, there are some people who are not mature enough to take part in the political system, but we give them the vote. Why? Because there's a general consensus, this is the argument, there's a general consensus that at 18, we have to draw a line somewhere and say 18 is when most of us are paying tax. You can pay tax at 16 on a Saturday job, but most of you are in full-time education or you're in skills training apprenticeship. And I think this government, from what it's been recently saying, is going to probably make sure everyone has to be in full-time education to 18. That takes away that argument. Second thing, you can join the army. You cannot fight in the front line of the war until you're 18. So you can join the army, but you can't be a full-time frontline soldier. So that's not entirely true. Secondly, you can get married with parental consent. You can't get married. You can't get married with your own consent. Is that real freedom with parental consent? Or is it not true freedom when you can do it yourself? So there's a general consensus at 18 is where citizenship begins. This government is going to change in October this year. As far as I understand, the law about buying tobacco going from 16 to 18, that'll be 18. Holding a driving license will soon become 18. There's debates in public policy. Now, it's not happened, I agree. All these things are pointing to more of a general consensus about 18. It is arbitrary, you've got to draw a line. But why 16? Why not 12? Thank you very much.